Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. I'm your host Sam Moores, and we're about 24 hours away, give or take, from the first game of the NFL season, and we'll get into that later on, as well as the first ever game in Brazil as well. But before that, we're going to be giving me and my guest on the podcast today, going to be giving some NFL hot takes, some sort of predictions that might seem a little bit outrageous now, but we feel like it could happen before the the end of the season. So joining me to do that is a regular guest on the podcast. He's on all the time, and co-host of the Full 10 Yards Betting Podcast and the Go for Two Podcast. It is, of course, Liam Horsley. Nice to have you back on, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks for having me. Recording this, 24 hours? Well, just over 24 hours till the game, first game. So yeah, I'm excited for season to start. Feels like the off season goes relatively quick for 3 months, and then it goes to almost complete halt for the last couple of months. So yeah, I'm excited for tomorrow night and Friday night as well with Brazil, like you said. It's come on really quickly this time as well. I feel like because there's been so much sport over the summer, whether it's been like the Olympics or whatever, right. It's just come round so quickly. So I've just scrambled around trying to get everything ready for the podcast this year. We've got it. We're back for the season, which is brilliant. But yeah, it look a bit different, but we'll get into that at the first podcast of the actual season. But without further ado, mate, let's have a go. So I'll kick us off with these. We'll go back and forth and then sort of talk about them and see how we feel about them. So my first hot. I'm interested to know how hot your takes are, because I didn't know where to set my level. Right. So I'm interested to see how we get there.
Yeah. Okay. So my first one is Geno Smith will not last a year at quarterback for the Seahawks. That's my first one. I just got a feeling they have to do something about the position before it's too late, because the rest of the NFC is just getting better. And the Seahawks have got, if they see the Seahawks with great quarterback play, will be a playoff team. I'm certain of that. Whether it's because very young roster, one of the youngest in the league, new head coach, new offensive scheme with Ryan Grubb.
Yeah.
If that offense is nothing special, as last year as it was the second half of last year, they barely scored 20 points the second half of last year. If it's as disappointing as it was at that point, and if the O-line is as bad as it was last year, I mean, admittedly, I don't know about what Sam Howell, but behind the terrible O-line will do, because we saw that in Washington last year. But I just got a feeling that he may get a chance towards the end of the year if the Seahawks have a disappointing season. Because, I have concerns over the O-line. New scheme with Ryan Grubb coming over from Washington. It sounds exciting, but if it does go to pot, I have a feeling that Geno won't last a year.
Interesting, yeah. So I guess you're meaning just this season, so not like next off season. You're talking before week 18.
At all. It could be anything, mate.
Yeah. So I'm a bit more of a Geno fan, but I do agree with you. Last year was rough with the offensive line being so hurt. But yeah, I'm a bit of a Geno fan. But I think next summer, if they have another bad year, whether they kind of turn the tide a bit and go towards a younger option, bit of a rebuild potentially, but. I reckon for the regular season this year they'll stick with him, but I do like the heat on that take. That's a good one to start with for sure. But yeah, he needs to play well, right? They've got 3 good receivers. I think they've got a good left tackle. I think the rest of the line's a bit sus. 2 good running backs.
With the O-line as well. They paid Connor Williams. He obviously first off of last year was all pro, great centre. Second, and then he did his ACL, and then none of the team wanted to touch him, and then the Seahawks put him in for a tryout midway through training camp, and they've given him some money. So we'll see how he looks. If he plays as good as the first half of last year, the line will probably be good. But coming off that injury, I'm a little bit concerned.
Yeah, right tackle, I think, for me is the one I'm more concerned about.
And they lost Damian Lewis as well to the Panthers. That's the...
Yeah, they did, yeah. And they've got George Fant at the moment as their right tackle backup, and he's 41, I think. So, yeah, I'm a bit worried about the line. So I could see Geno having a bad year. I don't think it would be because of him. I think it'd be because of the line. But
the offense should be good, right? That he's a good play caller. Washington's offense was really good last year. We'll see. But yeah, so it's a nice hot take to start us off with.
What about you, mate? Let's go for your first one.
I'm on similar lines to you, to be honest. I'm on quarterback as well. Mine's probably a bit more obvious, I think, than yours. I've gone for Deshaun Watson is benched before the season ends, and it is not for injury reasons. It is for performance reasons. So, yeah, I think this is it. This is the year where Deshaun Watson is officially benched as Brown's starting QB. They just restructured his contract again. So, in theory, it would actually be more expensive for them to get rid of him next year now, but I think this year could go so bad at the quarterback position, not the whole team, just the quarterback position, that maybe we see some Jameis or DTR coming in towards the end of the year, because I just think Watson's cooked now for me.
Yeah, it is pretty much now or never for him to show at least some of the form he did before I missed a couple of years out. And judging by last year, he was a little bit better. I have to say he was a little bit better, but he wasn't nowhere near. He was still a below average, bottom half of the league quarterback, and that's being nice, to be honest. To be honest with you, last year before he got hurt.
Yeah, last season I think there was 40 quarterbacks that played enough snaps to be eligible for this category. But I think out of 40 quarterbacks, the only quarterbacks that were worse than him for EPA per play was Zach Wilson and Bryce Young. So I think that says a lot when they're the two people you're kind of competing with as of last year. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he's a bottom half of the league quarterback for sure, bottom 6 or 7 probably at the moment. So yeah, it's a huge year for him. And I think maybe Stefanski, maybe this is the year he just kind of gives up a little bit on him and says, right, I just need someone to run my offense, and the run game and defense can win us enough games. We don't need to pay someone whatever they pay him. So yeah, I think this could be it for him, which I'll be quite happy about as a Deshaun Watson hater.
Yeah, and we mentioned it in the AFC pod as well, the preview pod. If you want to go back and listen to them, we preview both the AFC and the NFC as well going into this season. We mentioned it in the AFC pod that this is something that both Andrew Berry, the GM, and Kevin Stefanski are linked to. If it does go terrible, then they want to show that they deserve to still be there, and it's Watson that should go rather than those two. So yeah, it's certainly the Browns are going to be one hell of an interesting story going throughout the season, especially the way they finished it last year as well. Okay, my number 2, I don't know, this one is, I've given some logic towards it, but yeah, this one may even be a hotter take than the other one. I've got that both Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels will look better than Caleb Williams in year 1.
That is definitely a hot take. You've hit the hot take category, the spicing hot take with that one. I like it. What's your reasoning? Is it that they're really good or that he's maybe disappointing?
Yeah, it's bold, certainly. And I think he probably will be the best of the bunch overall. But starting out, obviously, Bo Nix seems like the perfect fit for Sean Payton, build is pro ready and everything, right? It wouldn't surprise me if he looks as you expect him to look straight away. Daniels, of course, Cliff Kingsbury as OC. His offenses usually start well. I remember the year where the Cardinals started like 11-0, whatever the hell they were. And from the very start in Arizona, his offense started off really well with Kyler. So I've just got a feeling that all three of them may be good. The ones that are starting right away. But I've just got a feeling that I could just see it. I think he'll have a good start. I do think he'll look good. But that second half of the year where the rookie wall just hits on a player sometimes, and then. The Bears have an absolutely brutal second half of the season. Is like you're talking 6-7 teams that you expect to have winning records, and for a rookie that's a really tough thing to deal with. So I feel like the other two less easier scheduled on the stretch, and by the end of year 1 I feel like those two may look a little bit better than Caleb Williams. Just a hunch.
I like it. As someone who's obviously Patrick Mahomes' biggest fan, I'd be quite happy if the man people keep comparing to him ends up not being as good as people think. But I picked Jaden Daniels in our we had a podcast last night that everyone should check out in the betting pod. A couple of us picked Jaden Daniels as our best bet for Rookie of the Year. Some of that was just the odds are better than Caleb, but we do think he's got a good shot. Obviously, experienced quarterback, played a lot of snaps, can run the ball really well. got a couple of good weapons potentially in Washington, which is good. Yeah, I'm not as with you for Bo Nix. I think that's the super hot part of the take. But if anyone can make a quarterback look better than they should, it should be Sean Payton. So.
Well, exactly. And with Daniels, everything I hear, I read, it sounds like he's at a really good camp. He looked decent in the preseason as well. And then so in the joint practices, apparently he's one of in all the ones that Washington have done, he's stood out in every single one against other teams as well. So that's something where when you hear another team say that Daniels has stood out, then that surely means something, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and all the beat reporters as well from the other teams they practice against seem to be saying good things as well. So, he should be good, right, compared to them because of his age. He is older and played more snaps than a lot of these guys. Same as Bo Nix, to be fair. They both played a lot of snaps. But, yeah, all the talk's been that Daniels looks really good. And we'll see if Caleb is not as good as you think, which would be quite fun for me. I'd quite enjoy that. So.
Awesome. Let's go on to your second one.
I had a different order, but I'm going to swap my order around and go with I've got a rookie QB as well, so I may as well keep on that theme. I've gone for Spencer Rattler will be the starting quarterback for the Saints by week 18 and will receive at least one Rookie of the Year vote from an award voter. That's my my take on Spencer.
Do you know what? I could see that happening. I could see that happening.
Yeah,
I really could.
Yeah, similar to what you said about Daniels, actually. The talk of camp's been pretty good about Rattler. I loved him coming out. Obviously, everyone's probably seen him on Netflix on QB1. Was a highly touted prospect. Had a really bad first year in college, and then has been quite good since, especially in his last year. I think he's got a good arm. He's exactly opposite to Derek Carr. He takes risks. He'll take hits. He'll throw it past the sticks on third down. He's very confident. Runs with the ball as well. Rather than just throws it. He's very different. So I think if the fans start turning on Derek Carr, like we started to see on Twitter and stuff over the last few months, I think there could be a bit of a revolt there. And I think if he plays enough snaps, I just think everyone who listens to the draft pods know how much I love Spencer Rattler. I think he could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So
we'll
see.
I mean, we had this conversation a little bit on the NFC pod. On Monday, we were saying that the Saints are just unremarkable. That everything about them is just below average. The way it is right now, they always the pendulum has swung in there because obviously they're so aggressive with the cap. I've been like the league leaders in the way that most teams are doing, what the Saints have been doing with the cap for years. But the way it's been is that they've basically just sort of been at that line the whole time, like a mix of quality and and then you've got the non-quality depth players and the Saints over the last couple of years, since Peyton has lost, is that as the cap penalties are starting to really get to them, the quality in their rosters got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. To now where they used to have really good depth from the offensive line, the defensive line. Now they're probably two of the worst units on the entire team there, and that and it does concern me, especially for Derek Carr. Last year when we were doing the podcast, Charlie forgot about the Saints as a whole team, and I made that joke this year, and I said, you know what, I'm around your line of thinking now, because that's just how I feel about them. So I could honestly see if it is that way, I can see Rattler coming in, week 10. I agree with you, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Rattler to like Olave as well is quite a fun thing. Is he going to probably throw more interceptions, maybe make a couple more mistakes than Derek Carr? Definitely, but that's what it's for, right? He's a rookie. He's going to be there for years. Derek Carr, for some reason, they restructured him again. I know you just mentioned their cap issues. They restructured him, so he is going to be there for this season, probably next, unless they want to do a Russell Wilson type cut. But I just think the fans are going to get to a point where they just demand a change. And Dennis Allen's got to try and save his job. He's second favorite to be first coach fired. So I think he'll try and save his job and put the kid in that all the fans want to watch. And then I'll finally turn on a Saints game for the first time ever on Game Pass since Drew Brees retired.
And that actually leads me on to my next one, because it does mention Dennis Allen a little bit. I think there'll be fewer than 5 head coach firings come January, like 4, maybe even 3. I think we usually have 7, 8 firings.
7 or 8,
You know, this year we had a big turnover in head coaches. I can see it being that number being very small this year because a lot of the teams in the league are heading in the right direction. There's a few obvious ones. Again, Dennis Allen, Mike McCarthy, Robert Saleh, for example. For some reason, Todd Bowles is really up in the list of the odds, but that doesn't make sense to me because they've done a great job with the Bucs, especially last year as well. And him and Jason Light, their last couple of draft classes have been great. They've got a really good young team. So that doesn't make any sense to me. Todd Bowles being that high on the odds, and there are people behind him and it depends on the season, like Eberflus, Sirianni, Dable, Robert Saleh. I mentioned a little bit as well. I think I can see the Eagles having a decent season, and then the Bears, if they go 7-10, like I think they do, I don't think they fire Eberflus then. And I got the Jets winning division, so Saleh stays. So I just got a feeling that we're going to see a very small number of head coaches fired.
So you said fewer than 5. So I guess who are your definites where you're like, right? You personally think these guys will definitely be fired. I know you said Dennis Allen was one of them.
Dennis Allen and Mike McCarthy, and that's it.
That's your definite.
And McCarthy, I'm not certain on, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like
Brian Dable's quite high on the odds as well.
He's in a. So it's Allen and McCarthy have got sort of very likely, and then there's the next 3: Eberflus, Sirianni, Dable, and Saleh, and those are either way. But again, if 2 or 3 of them have good seasons, we're going to get a very small amount of coaches fired. So,
yeah, we had loads this year, which I think helps because it's a brand new set of coaches, and I think there's a lot of young quarterbacks. Sometimes coaches get 2 years, don't they, with young quarterbacks? So I wouldn't be completely surprised. But I'm with you on McCarthy. I'm with you on Dennis Allen. I personally think Sirianni's a goner as well, but. Again, if they make the playoffs, even if they lose the first round, would they fire him? I think they probably would. But I'm with you. There's only probably 3 that I'm kind of very confident about, and then the rest, it depends what happens with Aaron Rodgers, like you said, what happens with Daniel Jones, how bad are the Giants? So, I don't think that's not as spicy as your Caleb.
No. Okay, let's go to your next one.
I think my one's probably not as spicy either. I've gone for the Rams will have the best offense in the Sean McVay era this season.
Ooh.
So back to that old team with Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Higbee. Then obviously they had Andrew Whitworth left tackle, so one of the best, better left tackles we've seen since we've been watching. But I think this team, the offense, not the whole team, but the offense will be the best they've had. Obviously, last year they were very, very good, but they were not great in the run game at the start of the season. They were not great in play action, whereas the old Jared Goff teams, all they used to do was run it in play action. So I think this year, they've got a much better offensive line, that interior
Although,
three.
I was going to say, isn't Jackson suspended, isn't he? Alaric Jackson to start the year. So that's the only issue. The offensive line at the start of the year is a little bit dodgy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Jonah Jackson's got a bit of an injury as well. But I think, they're long-term, they're bigger. I think they're a better unit. I think they'll run the ball better. And then I think, finally, Stafford won't have to drop back and, 3rd and 10 all the time. I think he'll be able to play action a bit more. He'll kind of get the old Sean McVay, Jared Goff offense, but also add the fact that he's a lot better and can kind of sit back and sling it when he wants to as well. So, I think between those two receivers, I like the tight end, both running backs, big offensive line. And I just think this is the year, that I think Stafford could have a great year. McVay could have the best offense he's ever had, which would probably be the best offense in the NFC, to be honest, if it is actually the best McVay offense that he's ever had.
Yeah, I don't. That is. See, I think that's hotter than my coach one, because I like the Rams offense, but I think they're going to struggle early on, especially with they got quite a tough schedule early on as well. So that's the only thing. But I could see it happening, and with Stafford as well, with the way he played last year, it was actually one of his best years last year. numbers wise, it is just I'd look at it after the season because it didn't feel that way. I felt like it was good, but when I looked at it, he was like top 5 QB in football almost. You look at his numbers and some things, and it's just like, okay, he's still got it. So yeah, if he can stay healthy, then I really won't be shocked.
Yeah, he was unlucky not to win that game in Detroit as well. They lost by 3 or 4, I think, in the end. I felt like he played really well that game as well. So yeah, I think they've got a hell of a chance. I think it's him, Cooper Kupp, and then they need one of their tackles to be healthy for the majority of the season. And I think the offense will be good. It's just if everyone stays healthy, I think it could be the best offense in the NFC potentially.
Awesome. We'll stick on the theme of best. I've got one. I think the AFC South will be the best division in football.
So most wins, you think, this year?
No, I think look, for years, obviously, it's been the most terrible, like the poverty division in football because you've had teams with like 5-6 wins. You've had teams with 9 wins, winning the division. I think it'll be the one that has the closest finish. I think the Texans, I don't think they're going to walk it. I think they're going to win the division, but I don't think they're going to absolutely go like steamroll it. And I think it's the one that have the most entertaining games because you've got different styles of quarterbacks. And it all starts on Sunday, by the way, when the Colts play the Texans. I feel like the Titans can beat the spread and even beat the Bears as well to start the season in Chicago. So I feel like every team is either on the up, or you've got the Jags who are hoping to rebound. You've got obviously 3 very young head coaches, Super Bowl winning head coach and Doug Peterson, 4 young quarterbacks, obviously 3 drafted last year, and then you've got Trevor Lawrence who's just been paid, up there the highest in the league. Like, I just think the division has everything. If you're like if you young quarterbacks, if you're a college football fan, seeing these guys in their second year, I think it'll be one of the most entertaining divisions of football, certainly.
Yeah, I like it. I was only mentioning the wins because we were talking about this on our podcast about the 4th place team. So which 4th place team will have the most wins? And
I could see it being the South easily. Yeah,
we felt like it was probably South or North because the Steelers just magic. Yeah, at least. Well, they normally magic 9 wins, but we felt 7 wins would be where the Steelers sit. But yeah, I'm kind of with you that I don't think this division will have a very bad team. I think they'll all be at least okay. And then I think Texans and Jags have got a hell of a chance of 11-ish wins, which would be quite good for the AFC. So yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I'm a big fan of the NFC West this year. We just mentioned Rams, 49ers. I think the Seahawks could get 9 wins. And then a lot of people were talking about the Cardinals. They've got the highest win total they've had in 3 seasons. So, yeah, I think it's probably between those divisions. But, yeah, I think you've got a hell of a chance. I think the top 3 teams in this division are going to have a hell of a lot of wins this year.
Yeah, me and Charlie spent a lot of time on the NFC West on Sunday night because I think he had 3 teams from the West making the playoffs. I had 2, but I had the Seahawks with 8 wins as well. So I think between the 2 of them, I completely agree with you there. But I think the Cardinals. I love watching the Cardinals last year. That sort of they had no basically other than Buda Baker and you could say Jalen Thompson to an aspect as well, but they just had no names on their defense, and they just played so hard every single week, kept games close. Like, I think Gannon did one hell of a job, so I'm really excited to watch the Cardinals this year as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was going to say one other thing is we've been recording for like 24 minutes, and you've had 2 shots at the Bears. You've had a Caleb Williams shot, and then you picked the Titans to potentially beat them in week 1. So Bears fans are going to be coming at you after this podcast. So yeah, be prepared for your Twitter mentions.
Yeah, do you know what? I've got a decent season. I just think they've just got a terrible schedule, and I think it will. It's not like I'm saying you're going to be 3-14. I predicted you 7-10. I just think you're going to. But you've been so aggressive. I just think you're going to have a little bit of a reality check second half of the year, if I'm being honest. But I think you'll start well. You probably have a winning record going into your bye week or something stupid like that. I think, but it's just I don't think it will last, unfortunately. And then we'll see what Eberflus is made of going into that stretch as well.
Yeah,
so
big games. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So your 4th one, mate.
So I wrote this down that says this is the Sam hot take. This is particularly for you. You can guess what team this is going to involve. I put the Dolphins are going to miss the playoffs in both the next 2 seasons, and Mike McDaniel gets fired after signing a 3-year extension for the Dolphins.
Well, oh, that I say because those 2 seasons are what his original deal was, so he wouldn't even make it onto his second contract.
Yeah, that's why it's probably my hottest take, to be honest. But I had to get a Dolphins one in there just for you. Look, I think the AFC's loaded this year. To be fair, like whoever finishes 8th, they're not going to be a bad team, and I think the division's loaded. Next year, who knows what the league's going to be like? But I just think we mentioned this in the preview that you've got a few older players, injury-prone players for me, and obviously I'm not a believer in the quarterback. So I don't think McDaniel will necessarily deserve to be fired. But if you make the playoffs, lose in the first round, then don't make it with the amount of cash spending that you've got for the next 2 years. I think the ownership group would just make a change out of panic because they probably can't get rid of Tua. So. Yeah, that's my Dolphins hot take, which I'm sure you disagree with.
Yeah, I do disagree, but I'm not confident going into the season the way the offensive line and defensive line have been built. So I can see them missing the playoffs this year. Now next year we'll see because the Jets may be into rebuild again. The Patriots won't be anywhere near the playoffs, and then so I feel like even if you do miss it this year, it's not boom or bust. But I can't see McDaniel getting fired because he is everything that Stephen Ross, the owner, wants as a coach. Because the Dolphins are relevant again. They've not been relevant for like 20 years. So I was listening to a Dolphins podcast, and they put a good point. They were saying that everyone last year, half an hour or so on talk before games, been talking about the Dolphins, and that's never happened before. And they were saying that it makes a difference, and for the first time ever they've sold out season tickets and things like. So I feel like this is exactly, even if people are attracted to them again, even if they don't win as many games as we think, which is I think McDaniel was probably there to stay. I think McDaniel was probably more secure than Tua, if I'm being honest. Which is
I thought that was too obvious. That was too obvious to go down with my Tua history, so I decided to go the other way. But yeah, we'll see. It's a bit. Awesome. I do think it's a big year for them. It's not boom or bust, but I think they're a win now team. So
yeah, and I think so. This thing's on to my next one because my one's completely opposite. I've got the Dolphins will win in Buffalo or win at least 2 cold weather games. That's my hot take because literally no one can see it happening. But because I laugh at me when you like.
Buffalo's not as hot though, right? Because aren't you playing them not in winter?
I mean, it's still November. It's not like it's September or anything. Like it might be late October, but even it's still cold. It'll still be like it's around Halloween, I think. But look, they've not won in Buffalo forever. Like the Bills have dominated the Dolphins. Pretty much since Sean McDermott arrived, actually, like whether it's Gase or Flores or McDaniel, the Bills have absolutely dominated. Like they've outcoached every single one of them. And the first year of McDaniel, it was even. In fact, the Dolphins won the first game. Again, it was in the heat and everything. Second game in the snow was a 1-score game. Could have gone either way. Like if the Dolphins won that game in the snow, was it a year and 18 months ago? This narrative would be completely different. It was just they stopped running the football right at the end of the game, and I think this is it. It's like this is seriously something that McDaniel works on. Like he drills it into the players to kill the narrative, whichever it is. The last 2 years they've had narratives surrounding them, and they've gone in and they've killed both of them. Whether it was Tua, then it was Tua staying healthy. There was the offensive line last year. Everyone was ridiculing the offensive line, and it was a pretty good unit. Last year when everyone was healthy. That they work on this, and I think I just feel like this whole cold weather Tua in big games narrative, I think it's just going to end. I just got a feeling because they've done it time and time again the last 2 years. They've proved a lot of people wrong, whatever it is. I think this is the thing they prove people wrong on this time.
Well, that's the opposite of my take, so we're not going to agree on this one. But I like the fact we came up with two different ones. But what would you say is more likely, them winning 2 cold weather games that aren't Buffalo, or them just beating Buffalo? Like, if you had to bet which one you think is more likely, what would it be?
I think
Green Bay is one of the cold weather games.
Yes. So
isn't it?
there's
I think,
three. There's three after Thanksgiving. So there's the Green Bay game on the Thanksgiving, like the Thursday night game on Thanksgiving, so like the late one. And then there's Cleveland week 17, and then at the Jets week 18. So the Jets one could mean nothing by the end of it. But that also could be for the division. So I'd like to hope that they could win that in MetLife. Like that's probably a good candidate to be the NBC game on week 18. I expect just because the Dolphins and the Jets will be competitive. You'd like to think, whether it's wild card rat spots or whatever. The Browns one again, it sort of links to the Deshaun one. I'd like to think they could probably win in Cleveland. So I think that'll be one of them. And then I think it's possible. And then, but I don't think they'll win in Green Bay. So I think it'll be the Browns and the Jets that if they were to win 2 games to end the season, and that'd be nice as well because the Dolphins' record in December is horrific. So.
So I think it could be likely. I think the Green Bay is the least likely of the ones, but I think the other two are more likely. Definitely. Certainly.
And then and that's I've mentioned it a couple of times since the end of last season finished as well, but like short yardage has been a big problem. It's not just been two-way. It's like the Dolphins have had plenty of opportunities in the fourth quarter, third and fourth down, fourth and one or whatever, right? And they've done something that McDaniel thinks is clever when they've just been sniffed out every single time. And I think that there's been a big emphasis, everything I'm reading in camp, there's been a big emphasis on short yardage and tight end play, which is just 2 things that they've just neglected in the last 2 years. And it's just been all pass. I think we'll see a little bit more of a San Francisco style offense than this speed one this year, especially when Odell Beckham comes back and they have a good run blocker coming off pup as well. And same thing with Grant Dubose, they've just claimed as well. I think this team will be more run heavy, and we'll see what happens in short yardage. But if they're a couple third and fourth down conversions away from winning big games or winning games in the cold, so I think it's just a stupid narrative, to be honest with you. But there you go, that's my hot take.
We'll see.
Awesome. Right, we'll get in. Have you got one more, or is this your last one? Or you?
Yeah, I've got a last one, and
awesome.
To be honest,
what's your last one?
Yeah, I couldn't decide between a few. So these aren't my takes, but so people know my thought process, so they can't hold me to these. I had an Xavier Worthy beating Puka Nakua's wide receiver record. That was in my head at one point, but I didn't go with that. Jim Harbaugh will suck and only last 18 months of the Chargers. That was another one. Josh Allen will have his best ever season was another one. But I decided to go against those, and I've gone for the third best quarterback in the league that everyone will think is the third best quarterback in the league after this season will be Jordan Love, which I know will be a positive for one member of this podcast who's not here today. But I've gone for Jordan Love, kind of the known third best quarterback in the league. Obviously, Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2. I think Jordan Love could claim stakes the third best quarterback in the NFL after this season. I love him. I love his play style. I think some of the other teams, maybe even if their quarterbacks are very good, they might not be set up for success. I'm a bit worried about. I think the Bengals live would be great, or it could be a bad year. I think they're very boom bust. Justin Herbert, who I love, people have gone sour on. Trevor Lawrence, who I love, people have gone sour on. Stafford's a bit older, so we'll see what happens with him. And then you've got Lamar, obviously, and Hurts that have had very good kind of MVP or near MVP seasons. And I just think maybe Jordan Love could catapult such a young team and such a young set of wide receivers to him being the third best quarterback in the league. So that was my last one.
I actually agree with that, to be honest with you. So I don't think that is that hot of a take. I think when I did my QB ranking, I think it was about May I did it, and it was the clear Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. I had Burrow ahead of Allen, so I had Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and then 4 was Stroud for me, and then below that is so difficult. So if he has a better season than Stroud, he can definitely, maybe not 3, but like he certainly will be top 5 by the end of the year. Certainly.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Joe Burrow hater, so I'm just to annoy my betting co-host Adam just to frustrate him. So maybe that's some of the bias, but Yeah, we'll see. My Xavier Worthy one was probably hotter, but I didn't actually believe it enough to say it on as an actual take. So there we go.
Well, we'll move on to Xavier Worthy now because his Chiefs will be playing in the kickoff game. Literally tomorrow now, and probably today by the time this comes out. And yeah, it's here. The NFL's finally here, starting its 105th season when the Chiefs welcome the Ravens to Arrowhead for a rematch of last January's AFC Championship game. That championship game was actually the first time the Ravens and Chiefs have met for like three or four seasons, which just seems mental because of how good they've been recently. But and in that game, the Chiefs pretty much controlled it from start to finish with over 37 minutes of possession. It was only a one-score game, but it never felt like Baltimore were able to win the game. Especially fumbles, turnover, Lamar threw a pick. It was the Chiefs controlled that game, especially their defense. The defense was playing really good, despite having success running the football, the Ravens just stopped running the ball. Then ran the ball 16 times, and then their pass offense met the Chiefs' pass defense, and it put on a show. Now, obviously, the Ravens have identified that they want to run the football more this year, especially when they get into the playoffs. If they get into the playoffs, they realised that can't happen again, and they went out and got Derrick Henry in free agency. And that's probably one of as well as the Chiefs, which we'll get into in the second half of this. But that's probably one of the major talking points about this Ravens team is what will their offense look like with Derrick Henry going into it.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's kind of how exciting is that running back QB tandem going to look in the run game, and then how's the offensive line going to hold up for them in the run game? That's basically all the two things I keep hearing is, if they block well, those two in Lamar and Henry are going to just go crazy this year, which I agree with probably, to be honest, if they're healthy. But it's just can that line block for them. We mentioned it before. I don't know if it was on this pod or the betting pod, but their offensive line is built to run block more than pass block. So I think you could see some success Thursday night for that. I think it's maybe when it's like 3rd and 10, teams like the Chiefs are going to probably really hurt the Ravens' offensive line. But when it comes to this week, I just think, they'll probably be able to run the ball quite well, and they should be able to run it well all season, especially up the middle. I think with those set of interior guys. So I think it'll be a good one. It'll be exciting to see Henry lining up in the backfield for the first time next to Lamar. It's going to be quite weird to look at. As NFL fans, I've been watching it longer than Derrick Henry's been good, but since I've been covering the league and doing a podcast, he's been one of the best players in the league. So it's going to be quite weird to see him with a different jersey on. But I'm excited to watch it in general. Maybe not Thursday night when I'm sat there annoyed at every single 2nd and 3 that happens. But we'll see. I think they should be good at running the ball though, for sure. It's very hard to stop Lamar and Henry when they're going to be together.
And that's the key. You mentioned it there as well. Obviously, the Ravens have got a few new starters on the offensive line. And the offense as a whole, obviously Lamar Jackson MVP. Second half of last year, a few big games where he just put on a show and won that MVP. The Niners game, the Dolphins game in particular, he took over that game, and both of them were pretty much over by half time as well. The Ravens were absolutely brilliant in both of those games, and then they're going up against the Chiefs defense, which was absolutely brilliant last year. Of course, it's lost a few players, L'Jarius Sneed being the biggest one. How do you feel like they'll be able to match up against this Ravens offense, and then obviously season as a whole, because you follow the team closely, a few people are a little bit confused as to how this defense is going to look.
Yeah, it's definitely going to look different. Looks like Trent McDuffie will play outside rather than inside. He'll probably be an outside corner, which I think people sit in two camps. They're like, oh, would you move McDuffie? He's so good. And then the other camp is, I don't think he'll be very good outside. Now, I think that is just not true. I think he's going to be very good outside. It's just, would he be better inside? I think it's probably a question. So I think it'll look a bit different from that side, because you're going to have a really good corner on one side, and then the other side you're going to probably have a much weaker corner. And then whoever plays in the nickel is going to be quite weak. Not weak, but inexperienced as well. So I think that's the impact, is like you're not just losing Sneed, you're also moving McDuffie, so two positions might be getting worse. I think throughout the season, especially the first 5-6 weeks, that Bengals game week 2, Falcons game I think week 3 maybe, you could see them really exploit that third corner on the field. But I do feel like week 1, I could be wrong, the Ravens are going to run it so much that it might not come up as much. I think it'll be more can the Chiefs' defensive line stop the Ravens running the ball? I don't think with their weapons that it'll be as much of an issue. They throw to tight ends a lot, whereas Chiefs have got really good safeties. So I think for this game, you'll be more about, right, what can the defensive line do against that run game? Because I just think the corners won't get tested as much. But Bengals week 2, when you're talking about that game, we could see Chase and Higgins both going quite crazy against the Chiefs' second and third corners if it comes to that. But yeah, we'll see. I'm not a big fan of the Chiefs' defensive line. It's probably I like the corners more. I'm not like most fans. I think the defensive line interior is the worry. Who's going to play next to Chris Jones? So I think they'll get quite a lot of success running the ball, to be honest. I don't think they'll end up passing it as much as people think they will.
Interesting. We'll flip over to the Chiefs' offense now. Obviously, you mentioned in the preview pod for the AFC that the Chiefs are an offensive team now. Obviously, Mahomes has got some new weapons, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, but Brown isn't playing for this game. How big of a step up do you think the offense would take from the one we saw at the start of last year, which was terrible in the kickoff game and for the first half of the season?
Yeah, I hope it's better than that one, or else I'll be tearing my hair out like I was last year. Yeah, it is a shame that Hollywood Brown's missing the game. Obviously, revenge game as well. He used to be a Raven. That'd been quite a cool storyline for him because they traded him away to the Cardinals. But yeah, I think the offense will look better. I think the run game will definitely look better. They were trying a lot of kind of wide zone runs last year that just never worked. They should just run up the middle behind those 3 big guys. And that seems to be what they did in the playoffs last year. That worked quite well. So I'm hoping they stick to that. And then, yeah, as mentioned Xavier Worthy earlier, I think he'll be much better than Rashid Rice was in week 1. That seems to be what the stories out of camp are. And then Rashid Rice has been really good in camp, like catching everything, wide open down the middle. He's lost a bit of weight, so he's got even quicker. He's obviously not going to be suspended for this game, at least. That's definitely confirmed now. So, yeah, I think the offense will look a lot better. We'll see how Kingsley Sumatia looks at left tackle. I think I didn't like Donovan Smith, but it wouldn't surprise me, week 1, big storylines, lots of people watching, that maybe week 1 he's not as good as he ends up being throughout the season. But, yeah, I think the weapons will look good, and I'm excited to see Travis Kelce versus Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton. I've got a sneaky suspicion we could see a crazy Travis Kelce day on week 1.
Oh yeah, and that Ravens defense it's lost a lot of pieces. Patrick Queen being one of many. They've also lost about 5 coaches to other teams in the league. About 4 of them are defensive coordinators in the league as well. So they've lost a lot of people in that defensive sort of meeting room. So yeah, how they look as well is going to be fascinating because we don't know how, they've kept their own guys in-house a lot. Like they have their own way of doing things, but each of them are a little bit different with how they run their defense. So interesting to see how they look as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think throughout the season they'll be really good, and they'll grow into it. But could they start slow? It wouldn't surprise me. And I just think this isn't the team you want to go against with all this time to prepare, because the idea will be keep the ball away from Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith. They're not going to try and focus on those guys. They're going to focus on the other guys. But when it comes to week 7, 8, 9, teams don't have that much time and luxury to prepare like they do for a bye week or for a first game of the season. So yeah, I think overall they'll still be good. We mentioned it in the preview, didn't we, that pass rush is the actual thing I'd be concerned about if I was a Ravens fan. It wouldn't surprise me if we're sat there on Thursday and I don't know who's commentating. I assume it's at Collinsworth, but they're probably sat there saying...
Yeah, it's Collinsworth and Tirico, yeah.
Yeah, they're sat there saying, like, Patrick Mahomes has got all day to throw. That would not surprise me if that happens with this line. I don't think the Chiefs will run it great against them, but I think he'll get a lot of time in the pocket. But we'll just see how that secondary does. They're really good, aren't they, on paper? But like we said in the previous show, there's not loads of depth on the defense. So all it takes is a couple of snaps, with your backups in or an injury or whatever, and I think other teams could exploit it. So, yeah, we'll see. I think it'll be quite a fun game. It wouldn't surprise me if both teams get a turnover because they're very explosive defenses, but I do think both quarterbacks are going to have relatively good days. Just I think one's on the ground and then one's probably through the air for Travis Kelce and Rashid Rice, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it'll be, especially for Kyle Hamilton as well, I think a lot of there's a piece in The Athletic, I think it was yesterday, that I read that a lot of, they do like the anonymous polls with like executives and players and stuff, and most of the league thinks that Hamilton will probably be one of the best defensive players by the end of the season. That he'll be considered up there. He may even be like, in the conversation of a defensive player of the year. That's what most of the league believes. So obviously a big start for him going up against Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and he'll probably cover him one-on-one at times, I imagine, like he did in that for the touchdown in the playoff game. And then after that, obviously, Kyle Hamilton was really good. So, yeah, we'll see. I think he's a very, very good player. I've seen a lot of snaps as well. I think Ben Solak was talking about it maybe on a podcast I listened to, that they actually were rushing him off the edge quite a bit. So they started blitzing him in camp a lot more. And I think with their pass rush not being as good as last year, I do think we could see that type of year where he has 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, maybe a touchdown fumble recovery, and he has a good year. So yeah, I'll be excited to watch him play. I personally think he's better than Roquan Smith. I know a lot of people have Roquan, but I think Kyle Hamilton is probably their best player on defense. So yeah, I'm excited to see how good he is. And then Marcus Williams as well, a name we didn't speak about much in the previous show. One of the best safeties in the NFL. I think last year he got overlooked because of how good Kyle Hamilton was. I think those two together this year could be quite a good combo. I think that'll probably.
Well, he got injured as well, didn't he? Because he missed quite a bit of time as well. That's another reason. Because they had Geno Stone coming in. Yeah.
Geno Stone got loads of picks last year, so we'll see if Marcus Williams can kind of take off where he left. But yeah, he's one of my favourite defenders in the NFL. So I think, again, he'll be good tomorrow night, and he'll probably cover Travis Kelce and probably try and stop Xavier Worthy deep shots over the field. So yeah. It should be a fun game. If I was a Ravens fan, I wouldn't have wanted this to be week 1 because I think they want their offensive line to have a few weeks to kind of get together. But yeah, I think for the neutral, it's going to be a cool, fun game to watch. And yeah, I'm excited to stay up until 5 a.m. and hopefully not watch loads of fumbles like last year.
yeah, that's it. Right, it's time to predict the game. I'll go first because I assume you're going to pick the Chiefs, of course. So I'm also going to pick the Chiefs. The spread of this game is 3.5. I think I'll go the over for that as well. Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to have a good start. I just think they're playing like you said. I think it's probably the wrong time to play the Ravens for them. This game would be so much better if it was like week 14 Sunday Night Football. That's what this game should be. But obviously they have to have one appealing game to start the year. So yeah. But I like the Chiefs over.
Yeah, I'm much more worried about week 2 against the Bengals, I think, than this week. I just think big game, come out the traps. They kind of set themselves on a bad footing last year, and the teams talked a lot about starting faster this year. So yeah, I think the Chiefs will win. I always pick them to cover the spread, but they are a team that they're either going to beat the Ravens by 14 or they're going to beat them by 3. There's never much in between. Yeah, I'll say they'll cover the spread, but yeah. And I think the total as well is 47.5 on the game. I personally am thinking under 47.5. I know a lot of people are thinking shootout, but I'm thinking under 47.5. I don't know if you think it'll be a big scoring game or more of a low scoring game.
I agree with you, especially kickoff games normally are quite low scoring as well. So that normally it's like it's not never normally a great football game. There's been a couple that have been really good, but it's usually a quite a slog. So I can see it's sort of 17-10, something similar to what it was in the playoffs, like in the championship game. I can see it being a very similar sort of feeling game. But yeah, we expect the Ravens to run the ball a lot more than they did before in that game. So yeah, that is the difference. Anyway, we'll get on to because we got another game as well before we go on to the first Sunday of the season, and we'll preview this one as well because we've got the first ever games we played in South America in Brazil at the Arena Corinthians in Sao Paolo. The early hours of Saturday morning, or obviously Friday night, obviously in America. I really like this club. It's just as well as obviously the international appeal of the game, getting another country. We're going to have a couple more next year, by the seams of things. I think it's just nice seeing the international growth of the game, but also having another sort of standalone window before the first Sunday of the season is just really cool because it just really gets you back in the flow of things before the first Sunday. And it's another game for week 1 as well. It's with the Ravens Chiefs. I'd rather have this one later on in the season. Like I'd much rather the Packers and Eagles play like again end of the season with NFC Championship game, what's the word? 1 seed complications. If I'd much rather them play, fight it out when they're both like got 9-10 wins already, and it means something. Then for the 1 seed, and obviously the only bye in the playoffs nowadays. So I think that would be cool, but I can't complain because you've got Jordan Love, you've got Jalen Hurts joining on the first game of this, first weekend of the season. It's a great matchup for the neutral, and a great matchup for the fans in Brazil as well, which is the most important thing. And we'll get into previewing this one now. Of course, we'll start with the quarterbacks. Interesting year for both of them. It's Hurts' first game with Kellen Moore as his offense coordinator. Sounds like he's a great camp, a really good camp from everything I'm reading about Jalen Hurts. Love obviously starting his second year playing in this offense with LaFleur, and after basically bursting on the elite scene halfway through last year. And their offenses go against 2 new defenses as well. So it's a fascinating battle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah, a really fun storyline. Again, one of those where this game could look so different to what these teams are going to look like down the stretch. Like you said, I think for me, it's more Eagles offense. Brand new scheme, Kellen Moore, very different. You haven't got Jason Kelsey there calling out all the protections like he used to. So I think that'll be different. And then for the Packers, obviously, like you mentioned, defense, brand new, college scheme, college coordinator. How long does that take to bed in? I think we could be in for a really crazy game, especially with it being abroad. I think this could be a massive scoring game. There could be loads of turnovers. I'm hoping this one will be quite fun. But like you said, 2 good quarterbacks. Just mentioned Jordan Love in my predictions. Obviously, I love him. So I'm hopeful he'll have a big game. And yeah, I'm interested in Jalen Hurts because he really didn't play well down the stretch last year. And there's been a lot of talk about how different the offense is and how complicated it is compared to before. And now he has to call out all the protections. I'm just interested as a fan just kind of see how that actually looks on Friday night. But yeah, should be a fun game. I've heard the players aren't as keen for it. I don't know if you've heard they keep talking about that. Don't leave the hotel room. Don't wear these colors. Don't speak to anyone when you're getting off the bus. Like it seems to me that maybe they haven't chose the greatest location for the players, but I'm sure the fans over there are going to love watching it live. Can't hear you. I messaged you.
Oh no, I'm mute. Oh no! Right, okay. I'll start that again. Right.
You were mute from the point that I made about being in Brazil.
Oh, was I? Oh wow, that's a long time. Okay, yeah. Right. So I was saying that a lot of the talk about the game is actually just misinformation. So it's good that a lot of things are happening. But yeah, some of the players have been fed misinformation and stuff. So from everything that I read, especially from Brazilian people, it does sound like it is safer than it sounds, and there's not going to be any major incident or anything like that. Like some people believe there to be. It's just a spread of misinformation. But I was saying that the fans in Brazil are really looking forward to it. And then what I said after that was we'll get onto the defense for Green Bay. I want to talk about the Green Bay defense. Basically, they've got new play caller, of course, Jeff Hafley coming over from Boston College. The Packers invested so much in this defense, whether it's first round picks or second round picks or money in free agency or what else? Well, we've invested loads, and it's stunk the last couple of years. So to be honest with you, the coordinators gone and past. Has been a couple that Packers fans have forced out the building because they've just not been happy with, especially like Joe Barry. And then what we had, basically the momentum that the offense had last year. If the defense played to the same level, then they are. I think they probably would have been unstoppable last year. So it's important that if they are serious Super Bowl contenders, that other pundits believe they can be, that this defense plays well. And obviously they've gone for an aggressive hire, haven't they, to get the best out of this defense?
Yeah, definitely. You don't see many college hires work at the moment. Obviously, you've got Green Bay with the DC. You've gone Seattle OC. Very interesting. I think the difference is that I'm not a huge college football fan, but my co-host is a massive college football fan, and I only get into it and watch tape for the draft. But Boston College's defense was not good last year. So it's weird timing. I know it was very good the year before, but it wasn't good last year. So I'm interested to see how Hafley gets on. And it's a complete different scheme than they played before. It's why they've got Xavier McKinney. Safeties are extremely important. They're going to play a lot of too high, which I think is a risk against this team because the Eagles are going to run the ball a lot and kind of run it down your throat, and that's normally not what you want when you're playing too high. They're going to play and make Xavier McKinney as well, who's very good against the run. They're going to make him play kind of high away from the box. And it's just interesting to see how they're going to fit the run when you've got one of your best kind of run defenders maybe away from the ball. I'm interested to see how it looks. I think the one benefit is he does like to blitz quite a bit. And this Eagles offense is brand new. And again, I mentioned it a minute ago, Hurts calling out the scheme versus Kelsey, who used to do it. Will that work or will that not? Like if you're brand new offense and you're kind of having to go for your checks a lot more and you've got someone just randomly blitzing people from different areas of the field, like backside of the play, how are you going to cope with that? I think it could look quite interesting. I'm just a bit worried maybe Friday night, it could be a great play for the defense or 20-yard run from Saquon Barkley. I'm a bit worried that they could be a bit boom or bust on defense. But yeah, I think it on paper it's better than what it was in the past, but we just got to see if it works because, Matt LaFleur struggled, great head coach, but he struggled to find a defense that's complemented his offense. And yeah, they need to do it this year because, again, they've got a hell of a chance to do well this season.
Yeah, especially like I said, with all the pieces they've put into that defense as well. Him and Gutekunst, it'd be nice to get something out of it, especially the ones that haven't proved themselves so far. Okay, we'll go on to the Eagles' offense now because I think it's probably the most interesting thing you can talk about before we go on to their defense because obviously two completely new coordinators. Sirianni basically just throwing the dice at some good coaching because last year they were out coached in pretty much each and every game, especially down the stretch, and they missed Steichen and Gannon a lot more than we thought they would. To be honest, they both, and they showed that with both of them having an excellent start to their roles as head coaches as well. This Eagles offense, I mentioned it earlier. From everything I read about Jalen Hurts, it sounds like he's in terms of production wise, he's had a great. He's been productive, but again, it's an entirely new thing for him to learn. Kellen Moore, again, for him, this is a big thing for him because his last couple years haven't gone that well. The last couple stops and everything. Obviously, the Chargers gig didn't turn out as he would have hoped, and towards the end in Dallas, it wasn't pretty. And we saw last year Dallas's offense was way better than it was when he was there, which was a shock because we thought McCarthy would probably make it worse. So with Philly, obviously a couple new players on the offensive line. Jason Kelsey, the big miss. Obviously, he's been there for since I've been watching football, which is a long time now. Makes me, he's been there the whole time. A lot of change. Saquon Barkley coming in as well. That's the big acquisition of free agency. It's one of the biggest stories as to what Kellen Moore is going to do because there's a lot riding on this Eagles offense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've got more faith in the offense than the defense in terms of the players. So. I think the offense needs to be good. Like you said, two new coordinators for both sides, and they both were basically fired last year. These aren't like hires because they've done well. These are people that have done poorly on their last stop. So, yeah, I think the offense is interesting. Two very good tackles. I'm not as sure on the interior. Obviously, you've got Cam Jurgens at centre replacing Kelsey, like we keep talking about. But even right guard could end up being... I'm not sure who's going to start right guard. I think it was Mekhi Becton is a rumour of who's going to start at right guard. And again, he's only played tackle in the NFL and not very well. So I'm interested to see how the offensive line looks, see if it's as good as it's been in the past. I think Saquon will look really good. It's just a question of can he stay healthy as always. And then obviously they made that trade for Jahan Dotson to be their wide receiver 3, which I think last year did hurt them that they didn't have a consistent weapon at wide receiver 3, and obviously Goddard got hurt a lot last year, so they had the two big main guys outside and then no one else in the middle of the field. So I'm interested to see how it looks. I think it'll be very explosive. I just think maybe the offensive line could give up maybe some more sacks, more pressures, big plays than what they've done in the past when you had Jason Kelsey there and a more experienced group. But I'm excited to see. I just think Jane Hurts has struggled with that side of the game, the mental side of the game before, and this offense requires a lot of that. So I think it could be a big change. But if it works, then he's going to have a hell of a chance at like MVP type numbers for the season.
Absolutely. And then we'll go on to the Eagles' defense because, well, last season it was one of the worst in the NFL. I think it was like 29th ranked or something. Like it was horrific, especially in the secondary. And they've put a lot of resources into the secondary. A couple of rookies, spent money there as well to try and fix it. They brought in Vic Fangio from Miami as defensive coordinator. Now he did okay in Miami last year. The defense was terrible at the start of the season, and it got better towards the end of the season. But he's left because he's from Philadelphia. This is like a lifelong job for him, coaching the Eagles defense. So this is probably something that he's always wanted. And for Fangio, he's got a big job ahead of him, hasn't he? Because this defense sucked.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and it's had some change as well. Obviously, our defensive line's changed a little bit. They've lost Reddick, got some good sacks to them last year. They've lost Fletcher Cox to retirement. Again, Jason Kelsey's a way better player than Fletcher Cox, but Fletcher Cox has been there for ages as well. So, he's a big person on that line for them. And then they've gone young in the secondary, 2 draft picks at corner/safety that are probably going to play big snaps. I think Bradbury got hurt as well last week, so he's going to be out. And then I'm still not 100% sure on their linebacker core, which I think was probably the unit that killed them last year. I'm much more confident in the offense. I'm not sure how this defense is going to look. I think Jalen Carter will be a beast. I think Bryce Huff will be good on third down. But I think they need more out of Jordan Davis, and they need one of the linebackers to show they deserve to kind of get paid in the NFL. So, I'm not sure. I used to love Fangio, but last year was a bit different. Again, this year, younger secondary, mainly apart from Slay. Will they listen to him a bit more than Jalen Ramsey did? We'll see. But, I'm not 100% sure on how it's going to look. I think they're going to need a lot of pressure, or else secondary could get picked apart by Jordan Love. He
hated the young secondary from Miami. He basically cast aside Cam Smith, the second round pick, and said you're not playing. So we'll see what happens with Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell, who again should, looking at the depth chart, should play a big portion of the snaps. Especially, I think one of them's going to play in the slot, and then we'll see what happens. But it'd be interesting to see how those young corners get on with Fangio compared to what we have had last year in Miami, which was, again, none of them really liked playing in that defense. So we'll see what happens there. I think it's time to pick the game now. For me, I'm going Green Bay. Again, I'm fascinated that they're 3.5 point underdogs, because for me, I feel like they're favourites for this game, especially like the Eagles being 3.5 point favourites, and it's not in Philly as well, which that does surprise me a little bit. I would go Green Bay anyway, but I'm certainly going to take them against the spread. It's just the playing off momentum. I think there's a lot there, especially in offense. Their offense is basically unchanged. Obviously, offensive line's a bit different, but their offense is basically unchanged. I think that helps going up against a team that is, obviously it's so new. Typically, as well, it happened in a lot of other spots, Denver and Miami. Fangio's defenses take a while to get going as well, so the defense does concern me to start off the year. And I think the Packers playing off momentum, I think they're going to get the win here.
Yeah, we've got a pick 'em league with the spreads in our group chat, and I'm gone for Green Bay 3.5. In terms of winning the game, I'd still probably go Green Bay, but I do think it's relatively close. I think the Eagles are like 5th or 6th in Super Bowl odds for the whole league, whereas Green Bay are like 11 or 12, which is why the spread is the way it is. They kind of go off whatever their preseason points ranking is. I'd go definitely Green Bay against the spread. We'll see. I think they'll probably win the game, and I think they'll go over the points total as well, because I think this game could be a bit of a shootout. Again, college, brand new DC there. Kind of new pieces as well in the secondary. Philly's brand new, everything near enough on defense, apart from a couple of names. I think there'll be a lot of points, but I'm going to lean Green Bay, same as you, which means we've agreed. So everyone should bet Ravens Eagles double on their accumulators this weekend now.
Pretty much. That does mean that. I mean, I've got a lot of I've got a lot of fantasy players on both teams. To be honest with you, but I've got a lot of Eagles players, so I do hope their offense does
sort of do something compared to what it does last year. It did last year certainly, but yeah, I just got a feeling that the Packers, the continuity and everything, just gonna help them win, especially a game internationally as well. I think that's really important. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers win by like 10 points. If I'm being honest, I think I can see them winning by at least a score. That's it, pretty much. That is it. We've done our preview podcast. We've built up to the season, whether it was the off-season ones we did or the free agency ones we did, or now it's here, that the NFL season is here, and it feels so nice saying that. Thank you for joining me, Liam. And next time I speak to you on the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, we will be recapping all of the Week 1 games and looking at the storylines heading into Week 2. I've been Sam Moores. I've been the host of the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and I'll see you next time.